Australia with the first centre, day 6 of the netball program. Semi-finals time. The world number 1 up against the world number 2 in South Africa. And Monica, Australia electing to start with the lineup that contested Jamaica.
Strong lineup in the forward line of Wilson and McMahon. They have combined well all week when those two have hit the court in conjunction with O'Donnell in the forward line. And again, Toms putting the pressure on.
McMahon with the drive to the post. Australia looking for their second, and that one won't fall. The rebound, though, the contest strong from Sherelle McMahon. She brings it up to 2. Australia quick to get themselves on the board. Now have the centre and the chance to take an early lead of 3. Not even 1 minute into this match. Yesterday, Australia started with Borlase and Cusack in goals. Mutually exclusive shooting combinations for Australia. We haven't yet seen Nikki Cusack line up with Vicky Wilson, and I know many in Australia would have liked to see that, Monica.
We've seen in recent years a lineup of Wilson and Cusack in the goal circle, but the combination seems to be working for Australia with McMahon and Wilson at the moment. But I am sure if anything were to go wrong, Coach Jill McIntosh would have no hesitation pulling off the bench.
The skipper takes Australia to 3. South Africa slow to start in this crucial semi-final. The winner will be promoted to the gold medal playoff Monday morning. I'm just looking at the stats from yesterday's match, Australia v England. Borlase put up 27 from 37 for 73%, and these are from the official score sheet. Nicole Cusack 14 from 25 at 56%, so the accuracy perhaps a problem for Jill McIntosh as Harvey asserts herself, makes her presence felt. Changes too, Monica, to the South African lineup. They played New Zealand yesterday and struggled in the second half when New Zealand rejigged the line. Irene van Dijk's still there, as you would expect, but Manza Mashoga on at goal attack, and she only put up 1 from 1 in yesterday's match.
And that is interesting when you look at Rosina Mahola, that had even 11 attempts at the post, more so than Mashogo. Of course, Van Dijk being their focal point, she put up 35 attempts and scored 25 goals, but a low-scoring game for South Africa against New Zealand. And surprisingly too, Annie, over recent years, South Africa have struggled against Australia, and yet their claim is that they're number 2 in the world and they're ready to hit us.
Well, they're number 2 by virtue of a win in the rounds at Birmingham 95. They took New Zealand by 2, pushed New Zealand out of finals contention. Great shot there from Vicky Wilson, and the congratulatory handshake comes from Sherelle McMahon. In the last 8 matchups since 1995, Australia 8 wins out of 8 matchups against South Africa. The closest margin, 17 goals in 1997. And in the finals of the World Championships, 20 the difference. So expectations great here at Bukit Kiara of an Australian win. 3 minutes down into the match, Australia lead South Africa by 2, and I think South Africa just starting to wind up their pace.
Just about to say, and I'm sorry, that probably very much the same style of game South Africa will play as did England yesterday, where they will feed that ball up to Irene van Dijk.
Yes, I think so, but England, of course, failing in that type of game. Lorraine Law blotted out of the game by Liz Ellis, and from good pressure outside the circle for Australia. England forced to replace her at half-time. Carpenter came on, and remembering that after this match, New Zealand, top of Pool B, take on second-ranked England. England coming in second behind Australia in Pool A. The winner of that match to face the winner of this match Monday morning. Toms with the centre for Australia. 2 the difference, 4 minutes into the match. An offside call gives the free pass to Australia. They can't shoot from that penalty. O'Donnell finds Wilson neatly on the baseline, and Wilson brings up her 3rd straight goal. Wonderful stats from Vicky Wilson, and immediately we have a penalty count situation. 8 penalties against South Africa to Australia's 1, and if that trend continues, South Africa have a real struggle on their hands to contain the best in the world.
Simone McGuinness there keeping upright in her move on that ball. Sideline went to South Africa.
6-3 Australia lead, 5 minutes into the match, as the South African captain, Dominic Harvison, stumbles into the circle. It's called as a penalty against Toms. And Van Dijk puts up her 4th straight shot of the match for no misses. Australia come to this semi-final playoff with wins through the rounds against Malaysia, Canada, Barbados, Jamaica, England. Jamaica perhaps their most impressive performance, 70-38. Many thought Jamaica would come in second in the pool, but they lost to England by just 1 goal, forced to play without key defender Oberon Peterson. And South Africa come to the match with wins over Sri Lanka, Wales, Malawi, Cook Islands, albeit their efforts against Malawi and the Cook Islands weren't convincing. A loss, though, to New Zealand on day 5, 63-35. So Australia undefeated come day 6, South Africa with the 1 loss, and Australia trying to stretch the lead early on. They lead by 3 goals, 7-4. 6 minutes down, McMahon. So strong, the young 21-year-old brings up cap number 11 for Australia.
Great intercept there by Lizzie Ellis. She started the ball rolling from the baseline in the defence area, moved to the forward line once again with Australia.
2 open to the post for Australia. South Africa having trouble containing the Australian duo. And I guess, Mon, if you had to look at the performance in the first part of yesterday's game against England, it was a little lacklustre. The movement not as we've come to expect from an Australian forward line.
That is, yeah, it's unfair too, because that's exactly what it is. It's an unfair statement to say, well, 66 on the board isn't too bad, but a lot of those goals in the last quarter, well, it was a slow game too.
Australia putting up 15 goals in the first quarter and 13 in the next 2 quarters, but the final quarter, when the lineup was rejigged, Australia managed a 25-6 quarter.
And that third quarter was quite slow. There was only a 2-goal difference against England, 13-11 that third term.
Was the scoring rate in the final quarter that no doubt confirmed Jill McIntosh's mind. The start going to Wilson and McMahon as Van Dijk brings South Africa within 4. 9-5 Australia lead halfway through the first quarter. And I'm just reflecting on Wilson's stats throughout the competition to date. 82% against Malaysia, 85 against Canada. She took the court against Jamaica with an 85.7. And in the single quarter against England yesterday, it's 73.7%.
You'd have to be happy with that.
Have to be delirious. I would be. The contest there coming from Netball. Harvison, the South African centre, the most capped player, only 21. And Arnie Kloppers, their wing defence, one of the more rugged members of the team. She's the oldest at 33. 3 times Player of the Year in South Africa, and also can boast a representative in athletics for the national team. Mushago. Van Dijk. The offload goes to Van Dijk. She wasn't ready for it. Ellis takes the throw in for Australia. Australia with relative ease moving the ball down court. I thought there might have been more congestion coming out of the defence end. But the Aussie girls looking the goods early on in this semi-final. Wilson takes Australia to 10. A full house here at Stadium Juara, and they're delighting in the skills of the world champions. Neville winds up the arm, and again Van Dijk can't keep it in.
Ellis pushing Van Dijk out to the sideline, putting the pressure on early.
Well, the South African style of netball is to seat her back in the goal circle, to play the ball high to her, and the fact that she's out and moving so much, to me, indicates that they're struggling to play their style of game. Forced off their game plan by superb defence from Australia. Mushago, Harvison, Van Dijk again struggling to get body position on Ellis.
Oh, Ellis is really juggling around the body of Van Dijk. At the moment, Van Dijk trying to move Mushago into play, but it's a turnover.
Umpires for this match on the top side of your screen. Running to the left is Janice McKercher from New Zealand, and working Australia's goal end at the moment, and you'll see her bottom of screen, arm indicating the centre pass, is Sharon Burge from the International Pool of Umpires, and of course Sharon hails from Australia. McInnes takes the penalty, both players out for South Africa. Oh no, it's been just reset.
Called, yes.
Now they're both out. So originally Sharon Burge just resetting the penalty, but Neville obstructing will now join Brandt. Kotzer gets a touch, holds it up momentarily, but Australia take it to 12. The lead is 7. 5 minutes remaining until the first break. And this will please Coach Jill McIntosh. Important for Australia to get an early lead and not stay in a goal-for-goal contest. The crowd enjoying the layup from Van Dijk, and it's thumbs up to the feed.
Crowd please Irene Van Dijk feeds off that type of response.
And has a huge smile, always a delight on court, always with a smile or a kind word. So the crowd really enjoys the personality as much as the skills. And that will go South Africa's way. Arnie Klopper steps up to take the throw in. Harvison in flight, but there weren't options for her to offload. She really released it, forced by the fact that she would have stepped had she not. And Australia, with a very similar play, put it out of court.
Uncharacteristically there, thrown by Simone McGuinness off the sideline. Known for her percentage passes, usually gets to a point.
Harvey with the throw in. Pressure over the ball from Mashoga. McMahon steadies. 6th goal for Sherelle McMahon for 3 misses. A little underneath the accuracy she's enjoyed going into the semi-final, but her combinational work and her personal movement quite stunning at goal attack. And this is a player of the future for Australia. Just her 11th international, remembering she made her debut earlier this year in the West Indies. And Sherelle McMahon, I think, consolidating a place at goal attack for Australia for many years to come on.
Working in well with Wilson at the moment, and yes, consolidating a place, and I agree. She's got great skills, and she's a lovely lady as well. Nice personality about her.
O'Donnell really struggling to get off the line there for the centre pass. Arnie Klopper's putting in the hard yards on the Australian vice-captain. Number 8 for McMahon. Australia 15 leads South Africa 6. Less than 3 on the clock until the first break. A good first quarter from Australia. And time is called. Arnie Klopper's by the looks. I don't know whether she's stretching out Achilles and lower calf or she's adjusting a shoe. Ice coming out, so there's a problem there with Arnie Kloppers, who's grabbed the left ankle. And in the break, the penalty count punishing South Africa, Monica. 16 against them, just the 6 against Australia. The turnover rate, 10 for South Africa, 7 for Australia. So with Van Dijk at 190 centimetres and Mahola at 186, that would be tall timber in the South African circle. They would well exceed the height of Harvey and Ellis, so the Australians would really need to use their speed and their elevation, shut down the spaces, pressure the feet outside. But we'll wait and see. Is Australia going to attack? McInnes has a run into the goal third. She, of course, can't, as a wing defender, cross over the white line. Oh, good drive. McMahon takes Kloppers down again, though, and this time she's in far more bother as she grabs the left knee, and she's a tough customer. We're not used to seeing her distressed with an injury. The ice bag comes out immediately. We'll have another look at McMahon's drive. She takes the space through. Hard call. Kloppers, you could see, was full stretch. In Kloppers' defence, she would have sensed somebody coming, not quite known where she was, except that she wanted to shut down the space. McMahon saw the gap, wasn't trying to take out anybody. But the collision there, unfortunate timing for Arnie Kloppers, one of the key players in the South African backline. And as we said earlier, 3 times named Player of the Year in South Africa, so they will be shattered to see her exit the game. And the restart with Australia. That penalty went against Arnie Kloppers, just to clarify how Sharon Burge read the play. So Australia take advantage of an unfortunate situation to take their total to 16. They lead South Africa by 10. Less than 2 minutes remaining in the quarter. McMahon still moving sweetly, so she's unperturbed by the collision.
Shot hitting the top of the post and jumping back out again, takes the penalty.
Just a little bit of touch on the arm from Desmarie Kotzer, the South African keeper. So McMahon taking her time just to steady her release. Harvison. Australia 17 leads South Africa 6. Australia with a great first quarter against the world number 2 as Mashoga takes South Africa back to within 10. And Bok has come on to replace the injured Arnie Kloppers. 10 the difference. Australia setting up a great position to go through to the gold medal playoffs on Monday. South Africa, Bok goes high to Harvison. Backs it up to Brandt. Oh, Van Dijk footwork. Tried to wipe it, realized that Mashoga wasn't where she wanted her to be. Landed, regrounded the landed foot before she could offload.
Fooled everyone in the forward line, that fake pass. There's no backup for South Africa.
McMahon adds another. Australia 18, leads South Africa 7. No movement from the Australian bench, as you would expect. They're in sweet form to start this semi-final. Harvey with too much speed. Mashoga coming to a standstill. They're on the run, the Aussie girls. Oh, beautiful work. McMahon at the post. Links well with Wilson. Great vision from the Australian captain. And that was a crowd pleaser. 12 the difference. And an Australian centre to follow could bring Australia to 20 before the break, as we watch McMahon in full flight on the end of a bullet from Wilson. Not enough time, though. That will be quarter time. So after the first 50... Second quarter underway with a South African centre and changes to the South African line. As we predicted, Rasina Mahola has come on at goal attack, replacing Manzo Mashoga. And just before the break, Arnie Kloppers taken from the court injured. She's replaced by Bronwyn Bok, who is the youngest in the South African lineup, represented in their under-21 team in 95 and 96, captain the under-21 team in fact, and this is her first year in the national side. Australia 19 leads South Africa 8. Toms, McMahon. Looking at the shooting stats for the Australians in the first quarter, Wilson with 7 from 8, McMahon with 12 from 15. So after a tentative start in goals for McMahon, she really has consolidated across the last part of the first quarter. 87 and 80% respectively, so a great combinational stat in goals for the Australian shooters. For South Africa, 100% from Van Dijk, 6 from 6, and Mashoga just 1 from 2 at 50%. And if you remember, Mon, she put up just 1 from 1 in yesterday's match against New Zealand, so really not able to find her with any great effect.
And quite a surprise that South African coach Marlene Wagner would start with that combination.
Yeah, I agree. I was expecting that Mahola would be a lay-down misère with Van Dijk. Wagner has had the coaching position since '92, herself a former South African representative player between 63 and 73, so well experienced. And McMahon takes the Australian total to 21. The smile on the face shows there's not a great deal of pressure on the Aussie girls. They're looking pretty comfortable at this stage. 2 minutes into the second quarter, they lead 21-9 over the world number 2. Interesting, Monica, to compare the match so far to South Africa's match against New Zealand yesterday. They were able to pressure New Zealand the first half of the game, and it wasn't until New Zealand pulled some positional changes that they really started to dominate.
And perhaps also an insight for the New Zealand coach, Yvonne Willering, as to what combination she will play, not only against England today, but against, more than likely, Australia on the Monday.
Yeah, I'm sure that for both Jill McIntosh, the Australian coach, and for Yvonne Willering, yesterday's match has really made some confirmation for them about starting sevens. Both teams in similar positions, a little lackluster to start. They pulled the reins halfway through. In Australia's case, it was at three-quarter time. And then the spark came for both lineups. So we've been expecting an Australia-New Zealand final. So far, we're on track. But if Australia can continue this, they will be into the gold medal playoff. The gold medal playoff will be at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Bronze playoff will be played before that at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. South Africa, Bok connects with Neville. Neville working deep down court, but great pressure from McInnes. Hans McInnes working her magic. Creates the turnover for Australia. O'Donnell. Big raps on O'Donnell. A couple of our New Zealand colleagues believe that she is integral in putting the spark into the Australian attack. I'm certainly not going to argue that one. Mind you, I'm hard-pressed to single out anyone from the 12. Wilson. And any doubts over Vicky Wilson that may have been raised earlier in the year, remembering she did come from the court in one of the Caribbean matches. She was actually replaced by Sherelle McMahon, and of course people started saying, is it too long? Is she due to stop? Well, let me tell you, anybody that was thinking that, she has answered the critics across this season, particularly here at the 16th Commonwealth Games. The Australian skipper, only player in the team to have played 3 World Championships, has been in brilliant form. She scares the heck out of every opponent.
Unfair to say too, I mean, a slight slump perhaps in her career, and this year has been full on for the Australian team. They've had two tours, one to New Zealand, also the Americas in Australia. National League competition, which has taken up so much of their time training. And can't afford to put in one bad one. Taken from the court, put on the bench, and replaced.
5 minutes down in the second quarter. Australia 25, lead South Africa 10. Aussie girls putting in a masterful performance before a full house at Stadium Juara at Bukit Kiara, right next to the Lawn Bowls. Ashoga warming down for South Africa. She was replaced at goal attack by Mahola.
Good jump, Liz Ellis.
Liz Ellis, with a very good work ethic here in Kuala Lumpur, has been business as usual. Young lawyer from Sydney. Oh, good touch there from Bok. Just temporarily halts the Australian build-up.
Good cut and dry from McInnes. Just the offload wasn't, again, to position. As we said earlier, not characteristic for Simone McInnes to spray a pass.
Wilson finds the ring. She's looking for the net. And that'll do it. Flipper takes Australia's total to 27. Harvey, sponsorship manager for the Crows, and the Crows with another win in the footy. My little South Australian colleague has a smile from ear to ear.
I think Catherine Harvey would also have a smile from ear to ear. She'd be very happy with that result.
Well, they're making her job very easy, is all I can say.
She's got other things to do. She's got to play netball for Australia.
I'm sure she might be aware of the result. Neville for South Africa. Mahola. Oh, Harvison with a little bit of aggression, and then nearly topples into the circle. Ellis casually walks by. Oh dear. Harvison helps her from the floor. Not used to seeing O'Donnell wipe the floor, let alone be on the end of the charge. Wilson sees the humour in it. Australia doing it comfortably. Halfway through the second quarter, Harvison a little out of control for South Africa. The South African captain putting everything into it, but it's uncontrolled.
Oh, there was a ever so slight gap, and Wilson threaded through there, and it just didn't connect with McMahon.
Just over halfway through, 18 the difference. Australia leads South Africa 29-11.
10-4 second quarter at the moment. First quarter 19-7.
So a similar striking rate for Australia in this second period, and South Africa really not showing any answers for the skill of the world champions. Mahola finds Van Dijk. That brings up their 5th of the quarter. Van Dijk put up 6 shots in the first quarter. and 8 minutes down, she's put up 4. So they'll be hoping that the combination with Mahola can give more possession to their target shooter. Here's another opportunity for South Africa. Tom's just a little bit late on the challenge, is put out of play. Brandt, back plays to Bock. Connects with Neville. McInnes. A little overzealous in the tackle. Harvison wipes it. Was looking for Van Dijk, but picks up the drive from Mahola along the baseline. Mahola has put up her second, and that's what South Africa need. I was chatting with Jill McIntosh yesterday, and we both are of the opinion that the team that wins gold here in Kuala Lumpur, or that can take World Championship title, is a team that boasts 2 shooters that are both available and on strike. Both can put up goals. Vicky Wilson takes Australia's total to 30. So just over 6 minutes remaining until half-time. Australia 30, lead South Africa 13. Harvey with the penalty. Toms to Wilson. McMahon tries to hold position. Stopped abruptly, and she draws the penalty from Brandt. Australia 31. Arnie Kloppers a quick shot there, and if we can, we'll bring you a further update on that injury. We were a little fooled earlier in the week, should we confess?
Yes.
Okay, we confess. You might remember in the Jamaican game that Georgia Gordon exited the game in a great deal of pain, and she was on the baseline. My money was on a bad knee. Other money was on a broken leg.
Yes, my money was on a broken leg, Anne.
Had to wait time to move her off on a stretcher, and our sympathies went to her. We waited to find out what the injury was, and the next day found her playing. It's a miracle. Vicky Wilson goes to the post for Australia, takes them to 33. So Australia have continued in the second quarter as they started in the first. 19-7, their total at the end of the first 15 minutes of netball. 14-7 so far in the second quarter. This one will make it 15. So with 4 minutes remaining until half-time, Australia looking down the barrel of a gold medal. A win here will put them into the playoff for gold.
No movement from the Australian bench, Anne, as to whether anyone may come on in the third term, and you would expect that at this stage of the game with some 3 3/4 minutes remaining. Perhaps the fourth quarter, Jumac may bring some new legs on.
Yes, highly likely if Australia can maintain this momentum that Jill McIntosh will rest some legs, although they do have a rest day tomorrow, so we'll wait and see on that one. Great goal then from Irene Van Dijk, one of the few long bombs we've seen put up. Van Dijk has 12 straight shots for the match. Usually she's in quite close range. That was a loose pass into the circle. Took a while to come off the floorboards, but Wilson had all the time in the world. Not really under pressure then from Desmarie Kotzer. Harvison with the centre for South Africa. Neville holds and drops. Oh, and Harvey is down, and it leaves it an open door to Van Dijk. Brings up her 13th straight goal. Irene Van Dijk, recent mother of 4-month-old baby Bianca. Oh, wonderful ball. Oh, just couldn't keep it on court. McMahon looks in surprise. She thought she might have offloaded in time. You could have driven a truck through that opening, so the South African defence not able to shut down Australia's forward line.
Good work defensively from McInnes, Harvey, and also Toms, but turned over.
Monica Joyce Brown has been over in South Africa this year, former Australian coach. She did a lecture series with some South African coaches and a bit of hands-on with national squad players. Oh, interesting move here. I think Van Dijk trying to put the screen on, a little different to what we normally see in Australia.
Few South Australian netballers have learnt how to put that screen on, where it's almost a basketball tactic as such, where you have a strong player up forward, blocking out the defenders from coming around behind, and your goalie is allowed to go to the space behind you.
Well, South Africa working it a little differently there. They had both players in a parallel position,
Yes,
rather than one screening for the other. So maybe we were at the first phase of it and they hadn't quite put it through. Good elevation from McInnes. Oh, and Toms is down. No, sorry, Harvey is down. Stumbles to her feet, feels the bruises. Discomfort on the face of Catherine Harvey, but it will be business as usual. The South Africans coming in a little late, and that's starting to increase as the match goes on, Monica.
Frustration setting into the South African camp at the moment. They're trailing Australia 17 plays 35. And whilst the first quarter was hindered by a lot of penalties from the South African side, second quarter seems to be much the same, Anne.
It's marginally better for the South Africans in terms of the scoring ratio. Australia have now taken the quarter score to 17. South Africa have managed 3 more goals than they did in the first quarter. But looking at the penalties, 12 against South Africa in this second quarter. They had 21 against them in the first, so I would suggest there's a slight swing towards them in this second period. But you look at the overall scoreline, and just seconds out from half-time, Australia with a 20-goal lead. That makes it pretty comfortable for Australian coach Jill McIntosh, and it's difficult not to get the eyes onto that gold medal playoff.
Not just yet. Still half a game away.
O'Donnell has flicked the pony into a bit of a twist. And McMahon drops another for Australia. Perfect quarter for Sherelle McMahon. 10 from 10 for her. Coming out of the half-time break, Australia 38 leads South Africa 17. Australia well and truly in command of this first semi-final. The winner to go through to Monday's gold medal playoff. Wilson takes Australia to 39. Vicky Wilson put up 8 from 11 in the second quarter. McMahon 11 consecutive goals, no misses for the young goal attack in the second period. So Australia well on target in goals. For South Africa too, Van Dijk with a perfect quarter with 8 from 8. Mahola just the 2, but no misses. So dangerous when they have possession, the South African shooters, but Australia well starving them of the opportunities. Harvey, Toms, O'Donnell, and Monica changes to the South African lineup for this third quarter.
Yes, Letitia Forster coming on in wing attack, and Lana Kricher in at goal defence.
So South Africa moving through their contingent in an effort to stem the flow. But nothing they've been able to do so far has been able to disrupt the rhythm of the world champions. Ellis, beautiful position, great elevation. Oh, and the take from McMahon.
Oh, what a shame for Australia. Good ball skills from the forward line and the young goal attack, Sherelle McMahon.
Forster on to Harvison, the new mid-court combination for South Africa. We saw her come into the game against New Zealand at centre yesterday. Van Dijk nails a good mid-range shot. Australia 39 leads South Africa 18. 2 minutes into the third quarter. So 21 the lead for Australia, but they won't want to sit on it. O'Donnell in the corner. McMahon clears the post. Wilson puts the step out, so it's a good close range shot. Australia looking to the starting 7 that took on Jamaica so successfully earlier in the week. In fact, the lineup that finished the final quarter yesterday against England, and that was a quarter that saw Australia lift to a 25-6 effort. Prior to that, Australia had put up 15 goals in the first quarter, 13 in the second, a 13-11 third quarter against England. But when Wilson, McMahon, O'Donnell took the court, Australia lifted their effort, and that's how McIntosh has started this one, as the Australian skipper reluctantly mishandles off the sideline. She's not happy with herself. The lead, though, 20. South Africa have really moved through the pack in an effort to stem the flow. They started with Van Dijk in goals and Mashoga at goal attack, a move, Monica, that really baffles you and I.
Yes, because yesterday Mashoga put only one shot up, scored that one shot, so at least she didn't make a mistake. But, Rosina now playing much better for South Africa.
Neville started at wing attack for them. She's been replaced at half-time by Forster. Harvison, the South African skipper, has remained at centre. Arnie Klopper started the game, and Australian audiences will well know her as the ever-present wing defence for South Africa. Their oldest player, 3 times Player of the Year in South Africa. She left during the second quarter with a knee injury. McMahon came out of the circle, drove the space. Harvison moved across to shut it down, and her left knee buckled under her, so she's been replaced by Bronwyn Bok at wing defence.
The only player that South Africa haven't used to date is Patricia Basson.
But Marlene Wagner having little luck in closing the gap. So while South Africa lead this quarter, have run goal for goal this quarter, they really can't make any inroads into the total.
Replay there, going over the goal line. Van Dijk, bring it back into play. Good work there from McMahon. Pass from Toms.
Sherelle McMahon with a perfect outing in the second quarter, put up 11 from 11, so no problems with accuracy for the Australians. The penalty count throughout the match has been heavily against South Africa, not helping their cause, and it's been a little physical. Quite late, the challenges from South Africa, and a few of the Australian girls have found the floorboards in this one, but a 22-goal lead to the world champions, and it's looking the goods for a place in the gold medal playoff come Monday.
Just that point on the penalty zone, the first quarter was just late, but there was no animosity, and as you mentioned, the second quarter it was late and with the body, and a lot of the Australian players once again cleaning the floorboards here at Stadium Juara.
Well, I think Marlene Wagner, the South African coach, has had the team since '92, would quickly agree that that may well be the case because of their inexperience in playing the speed that Australia put out on the court. They have been out of the international arena, as is well known, for many years, and they're still playing catch-up in terms of the speed of ball and speed of body that both New Zealand and Australia produce.
Oh, great hand skills there from McMahon and Wilson.
Whipped it good. The Australian captain in brilliant combination with the rookie Sherelle McMahon. This is Wilson's 84th international. It's McMahon's 11th. They look like they've played together all their life. Enjoy it once again. McMahon juggles it off balance, but still puts the pass and drive to the post on. And by contrast, some clumsy work at the other end of the court from South Africa. South Africa, of course, ranked number 2 in the world by virtue of their 2-goal win over New Zealand in the rounds in '95 in Birmingham. They won their way into the final against Australia, lost that match by 20, 68-48. In fact, in the 8 matchups the two teams have had since '95, Australia has won each and every contest, the closest margin between the two teams being 17 in 1997. And right now, with just 6 minutes remaining until three-quarter time, Australia 48 leads South Africa 22.
McMahon has shot 15 straight. So once again, the young Sherelle McMahon, 21-year-old house from the Melbourne Phoenix Club, is performing sensationally here for Australia. Australia 48, South Africa 22.
And that miss just broke her perfect run, but we'll put her in the dungeon later for that one. Tom's with the throw-in for Australia. Harvey just comes back to take the penalty pass in an onside area.
Good
Wilson,
timing.
McMahon with her eyes down. I understand the temptation, Vicky Wilson. She saw the defence too had their heads down and McMahon was open.
McMahon saying, but I thought you were going to take the shot, Vic. You're prepared.
And I'm sure McIntosh would like her to have taken the shot. Remembering that coming up next, New Zealand take on England in the second semi-final. New Zealand coming in top of Pool B. England coming in second in Pool A behind Australia. The winner of that match, we expect to meet Australia unless the wheels fall off the machine. Monday is medal day. The playoff for bronze at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday, and the all-important playoff for gold 12:45 Eastern Standard Time.
And that goal was a result from the hard work of Ellis and Harvey in the goal circle defensively. Wilson finishes it off for Australia. 49, South Africa 22.
A few heroes on court here for Australia, and on that note I have to say, first ever hero faxmon I've ever received brought tears to my eyes yesterday. Thank you so much to Mrs. Nuttall and all the kids from Newport Primary. That just made my day. As you know, I've been limping along, and a hero fax for an old netballer, that was great. I know the Australian girls are buried in them, and they'd like to extend their thanks to all the Aussies that are supporting them from home. So Bok hits the floor, and South Africa having no luck with that wing defence position. Prior to that, Arnie Kloppers called time in the first quarter with what looked to be shin splints. Ice went to the left shin, and then in the next quarter went down with a heavy fall affecting the left knee. Contact happening with McMahon. Bok still receiving attention, and just a 2-minute allowance for injury or illness timeout. So I think South Africa must be nudging that limit as they wipe the floor behind Bronwyn Bok just to take any perspiration from the surface. The girls finding it slippery enough. Beautiful to play on. Sprung wooden floorboards here at Stadium Juara, but just with a bit of slide about them. Australia with the restart. Forster out of play. And now Kotzer. Wilson brings up her 8th for the quarter. So with about 3.5 minutes remaining in this quarter, Australia lead the quarter 13-6.
Been on target, haven't they, Anne, in the 3 quarters? When you look at the first quarter split there, 19-7, 19-10, and now with 3.5 minutes to go, 13-6. So enough time to score another 3-4 goals.
Janine holding up, not the newspaper, that would be a minute count for the Australian players so that they know exactly how much is left in the quarter, whether they're on target. It helps them sustain the effort across the 15 minutes, and particularly crucial, that sort of check from the bench in a more closely contested outing. Pretty comfortable here for the Australians. 52 Australia leads South Africa 24. Van Dijk brings it to 25 for the world number 2. And whilst it may lack the excitement of a goal-for-goal contest, it really does bring home the quality of this Australian team, able to mount 19-7, 19-10 quarters against world number 2. It really shows the gap.
And again, perhaps early days, but the game of New Zealand and England will probably show the same type of dominance that's happening over our friendly neighbours.
Yeah, Trans-Tasman contest coming up, I'm sure. And Australia will not go into that one complacent. If ultimately they do face New Zealand for the playoff for gold, they well and truly know that New Zealand can lift beyond their all-black uniforms. They have something special saved always for Australia. It's a battle royale between the two. Quick hands. O'Donnell finds her skipper. Wilson takes it to 54 for Australia. Yeah, that will be a wonderful battle if in fact we do end up with an Australia-New Zealand final. And the Australian girls know they'll have to work every ball, every pass, every move if they're to win gold here in Kuala Lumpur. Australia in attack, full flight down court. It's a fast break. Hooked to the floor by Vicky Wilson, and a shot from McMahon. I can't believe it. You'll go a long way to see that happen again. Now South Africa have possession.
I think it was stick the hands out and hope. That's what it looked like.
South Africa, a rather laboured approach to the circle. High ball into Mahola. Finds its mark, as does Mahola's shot. So South Africa take it to 27. They trail Australia 54. Less than a minute until three-quarter time. Fast release from O'Donnell. Almost shot from the hip with that one.
Wasn't comfortable shooting out from that range either. Looked to pass off to Wilson.
Yeah. I guess they've had a few under the post, and it makes you stop to think when you've got the floater. Oh, the high ball comes from Harbison to force the...
Ellis thought about going out, but went back on Van Dyke.
Perhaps a tad late then, Liz Ellis. She's appealing. No mercy given. And now comes the turnover, the contact going against Van Dyke. And the timekeeper is to her feet, chasing Sharon Burge. So just seconds on the clock. And that will be three-quarter time. Australia easing off slightly to put in a 16-goal quarter. They took the quarter 16-10. They go to the final quarter underway, and South Africa quickly dispossessed from their centre pass. Australia now in possession. They lead South Africa 54-27, and you'd have to back them from here on for that gold medal playoff.
Yes, you would, Annie, and South Africa making a change at the third quarter break.
Their skipper, Dominique Harbison, leading the court at centre, and Neville returning to the game. She started at wing attack and is now being used by Marlene Wagner to finish the game at centre. Fresh legs on court for South Africa, but Australia having doubled their score. Look invincible. And we hope that will continue right until the end of Monday. Gold medal playoff, 12:45 Eastern Standard Time. We look forward to company for that one. Van Dyke continues her accuracy. 6 from 6 in the first quarter, 8 from 8 in the second quarter, 6 from 7 in the third. So the South African goal shooter not letting her side down with accuracy. They just can't find her enough. And Kotzer almost comes up with the intercept. I think it would have been her first against Wilson for the match, but it doesn't stick, Mon.
No, just dropped nicely to Wilson, and she puts Australia's 55th goal in the goal ring. South Africa 28.
Neville, Mahola. Mahola was a surprise non-starter for this match. Was brought on at quarter time by Marlene Wagner. And as they did at the start of the third quarter, South Africa running goal for goal with Australia early in the quarter.
No changes from the Australian bench. Jill McIntosh quite happy to run the set 7 and continue the full 60 minutes with the forward line there of McMahon and Wilson. Tom's in centre, O'Donnell at wing attack.
Sharon Burge and Janice McKercher umpires for this crucial match in the netball program. Two and a half minutes down into the final quarter. Australia 56, leads South Africa 30. Wilson with... That was balletic. That was almost balletic. Says in Vicky's bio that she wanted to be a ballerina but grew too tall.
I think she is having a song. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it brought a smile to my face, but I didn't want to underestimate her. And I said I've not seen anything balletic from her, but that was close. That was a pirouette with a bit of dazzle. Vicky Wilson working with the Queensland Department of Education. Almost godlike north of the border. Van Dyke stumbles under contest from Ellis, brings up number 30 for South Africa.
Wilson, the only Queenslander in the Australian side.
And
quite proud of it too.
And of course, Australia's most capped player. Next senior in terms of experience and running neck for neck with her would be Carissa Toms, who today is playing her 82nd cap for her country. Wilson sitting on 84. Up it goes, the high bomb. Not high enough though, Ellis with relative ease getting up to that. All to do with starting position and body positioning, isn't it, Mon?
And toss-up as well, so she held on to it. It was nice that the pass floated down somewhat and gave Ellis a look at the ball.
Oh, great speed from the Australian 7. Whipped through in the forward line, and Wilson brings a total to 58. So just over 4 minutes gone in the final quarter. Australia 58 leads South Africa 31.
Forced to mishandle sideline to Australia. McGuinness to take it.
O'Donnell. Mahola doing work down on the line defensively, the South African goal attack.
Off the foot of Krieger. But it's a penalty, I think, set up on the top of the goal circle. Toms takes it.
Wilson brings up her third of the quarter. Australia 5, lead South Africa 4 for the quarter. That was the pattern we saw in the third quarter, but to little avail. Australia had notched up some commanding scores in the first 2 quarters. 19-7, 19-10, established the lead. And now it's just a matter of by how many.
28-goal margin at the moment, Anne, and I know we did have a discussion prior to commentary as to what we thought Australia might win by, and it is in the general vicinity of that margin.
Well, we thought between 20 and 30, we hoped, and they're certainly going to give 30 the nudge. Neville came on at 3/4 time at centre, replacing her captain. She did start the game at wing attack, then left it. Oh, that was a hospital pass from Neville. Really put
Ellis.
Forced her under pressure, and I can't believe it's given the penalty against Ellis. So a suicide mission, but thankfully for the South Africans, finally found its way to a goal.
Even quarter to date in this 4th term. 5-all at the moment, 9 minutes remaining.
Great work from Ellis, comes out with the steal. Toms picks up the crumbs.
And Kotze just assisting McMahon on the forward movement. McMahon picked up the penalty.
Kotze will take the penalty. Wilson out of play. South Africa. Neville, they really are having trouble progressing across the transverse line into their goal third. There's not a smooth transition there. And again, trouble finding their shooters. Such is the positioning of the Australian defenders.
Jump, Ellis.
And Ellis has such wonderful elevation, is working the front of Van Dijk. Van Dijk standing at 190 centimetres, so not an easy task. But the pressure outside the circle from McInnes and Toms, superb.
Ellis standing at 183, giving away 7 centimetres, but I think she makes up for it with her elevation skills.
And you add Van Dijk's arm length as well, you've got another stat that makes you cringe. She's all arms and legs. South Africa thwart Australia. They've been quite disruptive in the start of this final quarter. 5 apiece in the final segment as Ellis goes down awkwardly and lies down alongside Van Dijk. I'm sure a smile on the face of both. A nice exchange between the two foes. Surprised that Van Dijk offloads the ball and that she didn't step that in and lay it up.
No, that's
2 opportunities to put it through, and she has conceded and given it to Mahola, and that will bring up Mahola's first of the quarter.
See the replay. Ellis comes through. Van Dijk is there, legs entwined. And Van Dijk ended up on top.
McMahon, from as close as you can get, brings up 60 for Australia. So over halfway through the final quarter, Australia 60 lead South Africa 33. And now that all remains is the question of, will it be gold or will it be silver for our world champion netballers? No prizes for knowing what they want. They didn't come here for silver.
Well and truly more than halfway in this fourth quarter, and South Africa in touch with Australia. 6-all at the moment.
Nice snatch then from Van Dijk. Sees the contact drawn against Catherine Harvey. And the crowd enjoying that one. It's been one-way traffic most of the game. Australia taking the quarters comfortably. But in this last segment, Australia allowing South Africa to contest. South Africa lead the quarter by 1. This will level the quarter score. And Wilson does for Australia. She takes Australia's total to 61. They lead South Africa 34 with less than 6 minutes on the clock until full time. Oh, almost a great take from Van Dijk, who just can't make it stick. And I was thinking earlier in the competition, Mon, how good her hands have become. I thought when we first started to watch her around 95 or so that they were soft at times on the take, but she's put in some pretty work with the hands. Wilson takes it to 62. And what a convincing display from the Australian side. Jill McIntosh not changing the lineup throughout the match, whilst there's an embarrassment of riches on the sideline. She has stuck with her starting 7, rewarded them for good steady work across the game.
Harvey put the pressure on. Centre pass turnover. Tom's paralleling. Back to Harvey. Long one. She loves that long one into McMahon.
Wilson holds, steps out onto the ball, using the back foot to hold off the defender. And the South African defenders a little static, Monica. It's too late to change the result, but the movement has stopped from them.
They're not combining as a team within the goal circle, and there's a prime example.
Well, that was threaded. The Australian skipper, Vicky Wilson, threaded it to Sherelle McMahon.
See it again. O'Donnell, Wilson, spins around.
And then you saw, too, a good shot of Kotze not moving the feet, really static.
And Cricket, just they're both out of position with their backs turned to the ball.
Well, the Aussie girls will make them pay for that sort of challenge. Van Dijk still enjoying the outing, sees the humour in the moment. Australia have taken the lead for the quarter. They've now pushed out to 11-8, but this has been South Africa's best quarter in the match. And the difference now, 31, Australia 66, lead South Africa 35, 3.5 minutes remaining in the match.
Impressive math skills without a calculator, and
I can barely see the scoreboard, if the truth be known. The scoreboard, though quite large, has quite blurry figures on it, and sometimes the lines are difficult to discern. You must have caught my squint.
Australia 66, South Africa 36.
McInnes runs it down, stumbles, and is off balance, but keeps it alive nonetheless for Australia. They're just going through the motions now. That was too easy finding Wilson. No contest through the midcourt from South Africa. They've fallen away from their task.
Wilson whipping that ball to the pocket. Perhaps it needed more of the softer touch and a placement rather than that strong drive.
Good lesson for juniors playing the game, who often think that the harder you pass it, the better off you are. It's more about touch and finding the appropriate force and pathway. Mahola to Forster. Up it goes, but under pressure is Van Dijk. Ellis and Harvey combining beautifully to shut down access to the South African shooter. McInnes, that will be obstruction against Forster, who never made an effort to retreat the 0.9 metres. Wilson, hands up, here I am. Oh, and it opens beautifully for McMahon too. Now they find her steadily via Toms. It thinks about it, but drops, brings up 68 for Australia, 32 the difference, less than 2 minutes remaining.
O'Donnell lets it go over the sideline. Bronwyn Bok in at wing defence for South Africa. Puts the pressure on McMahon, yes.
Throws the arm out too early, both contact and obstruction.
Wilson was stationary asking for the ball, and O'Donnell finally spotted her, released.
And Mom, we spoke earlier about the heavy penalty count being inflicted on South Africa, and it is 54 at this point to Australia's 31. So when they're not getting much possession, to be able to give that many back by way of a penalty really has hurt their cause. McMahon lines it up. This will bring up 69. It drops out. Too much on it from the young goal attack. Kotze, Bock, Neville. Some flow coming, but it's that was good pressure for Millis.
What a shame.
And she would have had uppermost on her mind the fact that she was up high defending the feed, not back protecting the post. So she wanted to make a good challenge of that one. South Africa come away with it in the end. 14-10 the quarter score. Less than a minute on the clock, just seconds remaining. South Africa trail Australia 37-68. This to make it 30 the difference. And Van Dijk happy to oblige.
The highest scoring quarter for South Africa here in the last. Up against Australia, they've scored 11 to Australia's 14.
And that is full time. South Africa putting in their best performance in the final quarter. But the world champions strong from the start, steady across 4 quarters. The difference is 30. And